Welcome to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Podcast, episode 24. My name is Alina Warwick, and today I'm extremely grateful and honored to have Juan Palacio on the show. Juan came to the United States from Colombia with only $200 in his pocket. He had absolutely no money. He's a college dropout and had extremely hard beginnings when he immigrated to the States. Colombia had some brutal violence, a high unemployment rate, and a lack of opportunities. So Juan came to the States for new beginnings. He's been featured on USA Today, Bloomberg, Forbes, NBC, the Oprah Magazine, New York Post, and just a ton of other media channels for his company, Bloomsybox. Let's hear how this self-taught, college dropout, immigrant entrepreneur creates magic in the flower business. So let's dive right in. Okay, Juan, thank you so much for coming on to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Podcast. I truly appreciate your time, and I'm really excited to talk about your journey. So how are you doing today?
Great, Alina. Thank you very much for having me. So excited to be here talking to you.
Fabulous. So let's talk about your immigrant journey. Tell us a little bit where you're from and when did you come to the States?
I'm from Colombia. I'm from Bogota. I came to the States in 2001.
Okay. So how old were you?
I was 24.
Oh, wow. That's very young. Did you come by yourself?
Yeah, I came by myself. At the time, my older sister, she was living in Minneapolis. She moved to Miami. And, it's just one of these things. The timing was perfect. And I decided to come here. And I was by myself, even though I was living with her. She was also kind of trying to find a way to make a living here. But yes, I was basically by myself.
And why did your sister decide to move?
Actually, for the main reasons I decided to move, it was Colombia back in the late 90s was having a lot of difficult times, very well known by everybody, right? The country had a lot of unemployment, violence. It was a general feeling of uncertainty, right? And people were having a lot of problems. In general, the country was suffering from, the drug business, right? It was killing the country, like literally, and the economy was affecting all the aspects of the economy and the everyday life. So my sister's husband had family in Minnesota, and that's why they moved there. And then, 3 or 4 years later, I came, once they decided to move to Miami. And why Miami? Because, Miami is, I want to say, the closest thing to Latin America in the US. So that was kind of the most logical option for me.
Got it. And then your parents, were they still in Colombia when you moved?
So my father passed many years ago. My mother is still in Colombia. She lives there. She visits. She comes very often, but they don't want to move. My mother lives with her husband, and they have a nice life, right? I mean, in general, things have changed a lot from that crazy situation that I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
The country has gotten much better, and they live a nice life. They are retired now, and they just come to visit us. My sister, she doesn't live here anymore. She moved overseas. But no, my parents, my mother still lives in Colombia, and she loves living in Colombia.
So tell me, what was it like growing up in Colombia?
It was, as I was telling you, I grew up in the capital of the country. I was fortunate enough to have a great education. Not everybody has access to education. It's not like here, right? It was a great childhood. I want to say that, I had a lot of fun. I had, with my family, I had a lot of friends, high school friends. And then during my teenage years, it was all fun, right? It was just living the life as, no concerns, no responsibilities. And it was a typical life in our countries, right? Where the rules are not as strict as they are here. And I mean it in a good way, right? I mean, not doing anything crazy, just
Mm-hmm.
typical
Mm-hmm.
things that you do when you're a teenager. And in general, it was very fun. Now, after, as I was telling you at the beginning, as I was growing up and kind of became a young adult, I started to realize that the country was in a really hard spot. And that's why I I made the decision of moving here. It was always my dream. It had always been my dream to move, to live here. It was one of those things. I just had it right in my heart. It was this aspiration of living here through the movies, and how much the American culture influenced the Latin culture,
Mm-hmm.
especially the Colombian culture. I always had it in my heart that I wanted to live here.
So, tell me about the education system when you were growing up. Was it prominent to go to universities and colleges and get a higher education?
Yes, and as I was telling you, Alina, it's not accessible for everybody. So,
Mm,
and the public education system in Colombia is basically non-existent. It's bad. They have no
wow.
infrastructure. We all had to go to private schools and then to private colleges. I never graduated from college. I dropped out again back in 1999. I dropped out. I did like 5 years,
Hmm.
almost 5 years, but still had the opportunity to spend 5 years in college. Right? It was
Hmm.
one of the best colleges in the country. And I think that the problem right now is still happening, is that those very few that have access to decent higher education are the ones that are ruling the country, right? And the difference of classes is so huge that
Mm.
there are very little opportunities for those who don't have access to formal education. And you know what? It's so different than here, where if you are if you push hard enough, if you are a hard worker, if you struggle and then push, eventually you're gonna see the light. It's not the case. It's not always the case in countries like Colombia.
Because there's lack of opportunities.
Lack of opportunities.
Wow.
Lack of opportunity. Look, and I heard someone saying that here in the U.S., not only is the country of opportunity, but there's always a new opportunity.
Hmm.
And that's what we don't have in South America. I mean, at least in Colombia.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So, Juan, tell me a little bit about the struggles that you had to go through when you first immigrated to the States.
I had plenty. I had plenty. So I had no money. I
So
didn't know anybody.
when you moved, you had absolutely no money.
No money. I came
Wow.
probably with $200. I had no money. I came to live with my sister, but my sister had no money either. I didn't know anybody. I had no connections. And if you think that I I have a thick accent right now, just think about it. 20 years ago, it was super thick. It was, like the typical struggles that most immigrants have, right?
Can you elaborate a little bit about the struggles? Just
Like
maybe name a
when I'm
few.
telling you that I didn't have any money, I probably I was eating the dollar menu every single day.
At
I
McDonald's?
was Oh yes, it was. I got sick of it, and then it was like you could probably think about, okay, I'm gonna save. If by going to McDonald's every single day I could save $5 in a week, I'm gonna do it. I would go lengths just to save, $2, $3 here. It was really hard, and not knowing anybody, not knowing the city. That was something else, right?
Hmm.
I would get lost in Miami, and for those who doesn't know Miami, the public transportation is is bad in general, right? Because it only focuses on some specific areas of the city. So if you think you're gonna come to Miami and you're going to rely on the public transportation system, you're wrong. And
Hmm.
I didn't know that. I got lost so many times. I didn't even know where I was. Again, no money, this crazy accent. But I learned, right? I That was the only way of learning and finding your way through, was by literally getting lost in the city. I was
Hmm.
lost. I was like, where am I? I'm trying to get from point A to point B. And remember, this was early 2000s. It's not like I, just could go online and search, right? It was,
Hmm.
I had to ask. But eventually, I started kind of learning about the city, and okay, now I know my way, and, just adapting.
So tell me about the process of you getting your first job.
I struggled. Basically, I was doing a lot of things. I started working for a real estate company, kind of doing administrative stuff, right? Doing
Hmm.
Excel spreadsheets and
Hmm.
whatnot. And I met someone who was involved in the flower business. That was 2001, late 2001. And they had a business plan. It was a crazy idea of selling flowers to hotels in South Beach, right? And of course, as always, it was easier said than done. I so I'm like, you know what? I think I can do that. Flowers, well, that's nice. Beautiful product. Going to hotels in South Beach, that's the dream job, right? And that was actually my first formal company, right? I basically told them, you know what? I'll do it myself. Why don't you guys just provide me with the flowers, and I'll go and I'll sell the flowers to the hotels in Miami Beach. It was super hard. It was really, really hard. It was when, I would go and, just define some areas in Miami Beach. I would park my car and then start walking hotel by hotel under 90 degrees 90-degree sun. And I would go door to door, and I would say, you know what, do you need flowers? Do you need flowers? It was really hard. It
Mm.
built a lot of character, of course. And that's how I transitioned from, kind of being an employee on that real estate company to creating my first startup. And it was by accident, by necessity. So I started selling flowers door to door. Eventually, I became good at it. It was real so hard, but I had no other option. I started selling flowers, and yes, some hotels were buying, and then I realized, okay, if I can do this with hotels, maybe I should do this with flower shops, right? I had the connection from, these people that had farms in Colombia. So just to give you more context, Colombia is the second largest flower producer in the world.
Wow.
It's very, it's a business that it's an industry that provides a lot of money to the country and a lot of employment. So it's not strange for you as Colombian to know someone in the business because, again, it's so popular and it has grown so much. So, I had connections and decided to start selling flowers to flower shops because it was basically the same effort going door to door, trying to sell flowers to hotels as going door to door and trying to sell flowers to flower shops.
Oh, okay. So like wholesale flowers from Colombia to flower shops.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Got it. Juan, I just want to interrupt for 1 second. So your very, very first job was real estate, but you said you met a guy who was selling flowers. Can you tell me again how was the transition? Did you quit doing real estate and then you started working with this guy doing flowers?
I quit the working for this real estate office,
Okay.
and when I met these people, the one that were doing the flower business, they actually wanted to hire me to start selling flowers door to door.
Mm,
But you know, I was gonna make so little. It was not. I'm trying to find the right word to define it. It was not the right offer, right?
mm,
So
mm-hmm.
I actually I like the idea. They had a business plan, and I'm like, you know what? I can do this myself.
Got
If I can find someone who can provide me with the flowers, I just might as well do it myself.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So that's where your business idea stemmed from. And then how long after that did you open up your first company?
It was right away, right? I'm
Okay.
like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start selling the flowers, and I opened the company. And again, I didn't know anything. I didn't know the industry. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any hotels. I thought that it was a good idea.
Wow. And that's when Bloomsybox was born?
No, no, that was a
Oh,
company. No, that was early 2000 sorry, that was early 2002. That was another company. It was called the flowerexchange.com.
okay. And how old were you when you started that?
25.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to continue on the path. So then what happened?
Then, as I was telling you, I had a friend that was building websites. And remember, it was early 2000s. E-commerce was still kind of new. I had this friend, and he was like, why don't you, instead of going door to door, just have all this inventory and have a website? And back then, the industry here, so Miami is the main port of entry for flowers in the US. I want to say 95% of the flowers come through Miami at the time. If you were a wholesaler or a flower shop, you would get daily availability list via fax. You would get a fax. You would get the sounds
Fax
crazy.
days. I love it.
So you would get a fax, and the fax would have all the flower varieties, the quantities, and the price. So what I would do, again, I was getting better at it. I would just early in the morning, 6 a.m., like you, I would just go through the fax one by one, importer by importer, and kind of make my own list. And I would then fax my own list to flower shops. So I would gather products that I was not buying from Colombia because these importers were kind of getting flowers from everywhere.
Hmm.
I was just getting my own list, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What if I just upload this list and I'll do a website in which everybody could go and buy flowers from all these importers, kind of a hub, right? And that's
Hmm.
why I call it the flower exchange. That was the idea of the business. It didn't work out like that. But anyway, I built the website, and I kind of waited like 3 weeks or so for someone to buy. It never came,
Oh.
and and I realized that it was not magic. It was not going to happen like magic. I started researching and saying, okay, how do you get yourself listed on these search engines and Google,
Hmm.
and I taught myself SEO. And when SEO was literally rocket science, no one knew anything. It was
Yeah.
brand new. So I taught myself SEO. I started reading a lot of books and like working literally trial and error with my own website, the one that my friend had built. I actually uploaded something crazy like 400 products,
Wow.
descriptions. And I was working on SEO. Eventually, I started ranking for some keywords. And one day I had a real order. One day, a lady, and I still to this day, I remember it, one lady in New Jersey ordered a box of flowers for me from us. It was an amazing feeling.
How long
And
did
from
that take?
there, excuse me,
I'm sorry. How long did that take? How long till the first
like
order came in?
like 8 months.
8 months. Wow.
Yes, like 8 months. I was still selling flowers to hotels, to flower shops, like going door to door. By the time I already had a small warehouse here in Miami, and I even had customers going to my warehouse. It was feeling like a real business, but I was struggling. I was barely making some money for me to
Mhm.
survive. I was still eating the dollar menu. I was still having a hard time. So it took me like 8 months, and from that point, I started to realize that I needed to, kind of spend all my time and all my attention into building the website and not, knocking on doors, trying to sell more flowers to hotels and flower shops. And I became a student, and I became obsessed with online marketing. And the website started to take off probably 2003, 2004, where it was, I basically transitioned from selling flowers door to door to not even touching a customer, learning about e-commerce and selling flowers online. Then I basically started meeting people from FedEx, from UPS, and kind of, defined a way of selling wholesale flowers online. We were the only one doing it at the time. And the business took off. along the way, I met two other. So I actually sold part of the company. I needed capital, and I partnered up with two more people. And that business started doing really well after probably 2004, 2005. We ended up having like 11 employees. We were selling flowers nationwide. We grew so much. It was a great story. Back in 2009, I kind of started losing my own motivation. My business partners, they wanted something different for the business. I wanted to expand my own career as an online marketer, right? I was doing some consulting on the side for other type of products. So people would know that I was doing well selling something online. They would come to me and say, "Hey, how do you do it? If I pay you something, would you consult for me?" And I started doing it. I like it a lot. So at the end of 2009, I basically sold my shares of the business, and my former business partners, they ended up, owning the whole thing. It was an amazing experience for me. I learned not only about flowers, but most importantly, I learned about online marketing.
And that was selling flowers online through like a delivery system, just shipping them, right? Shipping flowers.
Shipping flowers or wholesale. It was at the end, we didn't have any flower shops buying from us. It was just like the end consumer for do-it-yourself brides to be, event planners, and people that wanted to have flowers, like that needed flowers in bulk for their houses, for their offices, for their events. And we were actually filling that gap in the market.
Mm-hmm.
If you are like in Ohio and you want to have 100 stems of flowers, and any wholesaler wouldn't sell to you if you don't have a license, right? If you're not a florist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, if this is the case anymore, given the current circumstances, but that was the case. So we were filling that gap, and we were doing very well. It was a business that literally took off after struggling so much. It was a great business. It was a great business model, and it was a great business by itself.
So you ended up selling that company, and then what happened?
So I ended up selling that company, and as I was telling you, I immersed myself into online marketing and learning. I was obsessed with usability and conversions analytics, conversion rates, and I kind of, just spent a lot of time studying.
Is that through books, or how did you self-teach yourself?
It was mainly at the beginning, mainly books when I first started, and then online, taking classes online and just buying and kind of watching videos. It was a combination of everything.
Got it.
So after selling that business, I met someone who now is a good friend of mine. He had a portfolio of these amazing domains like miamihotels.com, parishotels.com, londonhotels.com. It was a collection of 23 premium domain names.
Wow.
And he was like, "Hey, why don't you come and work for me? Why don't you just build this into an online hotel booking engine, like multiple," right? It was a beautiful challenge. I started with one. It was cancunhotels.com. And I'm like, let me try with this one. Let me see what can I do for it. And if it works, great. Let's expand to the other ones. And that's what I did. I took that website from nothing and I started building it. You need to understand that the online travel industry is crazy competitive. It's a huge industry. The companies like large OTAs or online travel agencies like Expedia are spending millions, not to say billions of dollars, trying to get themselves positioned to overrank the hotels. So what we were doing, we were just using actually one of Expedia's businesses is they have so much inventory of hotels that they actually resell it through sites like Cancun Hotels or MiamiHotels.com or ParisHotels.com. And that's what we were, right? We ended up having, I realized very quickly that building an online travel agency and building a booking engine was too much of a challenge that would require a lot of money. So found that you could just sell someone else's inventory. And that's what we were doing. We were just funneling this traffic that was searching for hotels at a specific city to get to these websites to book. And they were basically booking at Expedia. They just didn't know. I'm giving out the secret now.
Yeah.
Not everybody. So, I actually ended up, taking over the 23 domains that I was telling you.
Wow.
And it was a pure online marketing operation, like my dream come true. I learned so much. We ended up becoming one of top 10 Expedia affiliates in the country. So we developed a really close relationship with Expedia. I learned so much. The money that, like I was telling you before, the money that they spend acquiring users, the things that they do for usability, how to prominently feature some hotels, all the things, right? I learned a lot of things, and it was a great time of my life. Then my wife was pregnant. I have two girls. They were born during that period. So it was great. But back in 2013, and just connecting this story with my current story, back in 2013, I was at a conference and I learned about Birchbox, the cosmetic subscription. Back then.
What is it called?
I think Birchbox.
Birchbox.
Yeah, that's my accent getting in the way.
No. I just never heard of Birchbox.
So Birchbox is probably one of the largest cosmetic subscription out there. It was founded by a couple of young students from Harvard. They launched it back in 2011. It's huge. I think it's, they have gotten something like some, crazy VC money, like 300, 400 million. Anyway, they're huge. But at the time, they were not that big as they are today, I have to say. They were huge back then, by any standards. And I learned about the subscription model and I was fascinated by it, right? I was obsessed with it. Wait a minute. You're going to have someone, you're going to acquire a customer and you're going to have this customer coming to you over and over and over. That's fascinating, right? It was amazing. And I had this idea, I started researching the subscription model. And at the same time, it was probably my fourth year at the company. It was not my company. And I started thinking about, okay, I had a great time here, but I think it's time now for me to get back into my entrepreneurial journey. Because once you taste it, you're always going to have it.
Yeah.
Right? I had that flame and I'm like, I want to go, I miss it. I miss the energy. I missed a lot of things about it, even the ups and downs and kind of being able to, project yourself, right? So build something yourself. So during that time, 2014, between 2014 and 2015, I started researching a lot about subscriptions. And along that way, I tried multiple things, meaning multiple ideas to build multiple ideas. And I realized that I needed to quit my job in order to get serious about getting back to being an entrepreneur. Again, I had two kids, two babies. And, my wife kind of realized that I needed to do this for myself. I got to a point in which I was not enjoying my job anymore, going to work. I don't want to do this anymore. I need to get back to building something for my own and kind of chasing that vision, right? I lost that. So I quit my job.
Did you have any savings?
Yeah, but not that much money.
Okay.
I told my wife, I'm going to do some consulting on the side just to get some money, and bear with me, give me 6 months. And if I don't do something decent within 6 months, I promise that I'm going to find a job. Because she was tired of me coming with new ideas every single day. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a subscription of Mexican snacks. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to build a subscription for soccer t-shirts. And, I came up with so many And she was like, you need to make up your mind. It was just, for me, it was so natural to think about subscriptions and flowers because of my background. I thought that I had closed the door forever on the flower industry when I left, when I sold the flower exchange, my shares at the company, when I sold my company. I thought that, okay, that was it. That's it. I'm done. But as I started getting serious about, just building my own company, a subscription company, I just put the two dots together, flowers and subscription. It's a beautiful combination, right? It makes sense.
Yes.
No one was doing it at the time, 2000. And again, I quit late 2014 and I started working on what later became Bloomsybox, like the business plan, January 2015. I realized that there was a big opportunity and the concept of getting flowers on a consistent basis made a lot of sense. It still does, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You have a product that it's a beautiful product, a product that you need to get, it dies. Yes. So you need to get replenishment. And, I kind of built the concept of our business around the idea of, I learned so much throughout the years about flowers that no one had seen before and flowers that are not commercially developed, for lack of a better term, and realized that I could probably, through the subscription, build this discovery platform of introducing new flower varieties that I had seen before, but no one else has. Well, I mean, not the common user, and just provide users with a great way of getting flowers, discover new flower varieties, and do it in a consistent way, in a constant and repetitive way. So that's how the whole concept was born.
Did you have to raise any capital for Bloomsybox?
Yes, I raised capital. I ended up raising capital. I actually still have a business partner. They have been amazing. They are the original investors, angel investors, and we've had a couple of additional rounds with them. Not only they provided us with capital, but also with infrastructure, logistics. Our business is so heavy in logistics, right? When you're trying to get fresh flowers from point A to point B, the logistics around that movement are heavy because you need to have everything refrigerated and etc. So, these my business partners, they have a lot of infrastructure, and I'm basically using that infrastructure for our benefit. They have been great. I'm so grateful that I actually ended up finding these business partners of mine. They support me. They have given me a lot of structure in terms of financial control and learning from the most basic forecast systems to understanding the cycle of the business, etc. So it was a long answer to your question, but yes.
No. Yeah. No, you're totally fine. And I'm assuming you didn't raise any capital for your first business, right?
No, nothing.
Got it. Wow. What an amazing journey, Juan.
Thank you. That's a great story.
That's an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing that. So there's so much to ask. So where do you think you got your entrepreneurial drive from if you want to like go back to the very, very first company? Was it kind of growing up and seeing your parents, or was it kind of just circumstances that just landed you to become an entrepreneur?
So honestly, I don't come from an entrepreneurial family, even though my grandfather was an entrepreneur himself, but I would be lying if I tell you that it came from that. I want to say that I ended up being an entrepreneur by, quote unquote accident. I kind of didn't have too many options, as I was telling you, and, became a hustler entrepreneur. And again, as I was telling you before, once you taste it, you don't want to do anything else. I think that, when you become an entrepreneur by necessity, it's fine. It's irrelevant how you become an entrepreneur, as long as eventually you think of it of just chasing the realization of your own potential, right? It's finding that sense of purpose, which is, I know it sounds very like rhetorical and like taken out of a book, but that's how I feel.
Got it. Got it. So is Bloomsybox nationwide? Are you guys just focused on Florida customers? Where are you guys all at?
Nationwide.
Wow, that's amazing. And how long did that take you to build it from just Florida to just nationwide?
It was fairly quickly. As I was telling you, we're lucky enough to have the infrastructure from our business partners
Got it.
and the reach, of course, building the website and, kind of having all these markets. So we started getting customers from everywhere. It was fairly quickly.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. I love that idea. It's a genius idea. So Juan, I wanted to ask you, did you have any mentors that helped you out to start your business? And I want to hear on both businesses, your first business and now your Bloomsybox.
Honestly, Alina, I never had a formal mentor. I did a lot of research, as I was telling you, and still do, a lot of advice from people that I know, but I didn't have any mentor.
You kind of
So
just self-taught. You're self-taught. You just hustled your way through and learned all the ins and outs all by yourself. Wow. Did you end up going back to college and getting like a formal college education, or the 5 years that you said you had was it?
No, that was it.
Wow, that's even better.
I thought of it, but that was it. And I was just doing everything, and I didn't have time for that. And I have my own personal theories about formal education, but that's maybe for another conversation.
Yeah. Juan, looking back at your immigrant entrepreneur career and knowing what you know now, would you want to change anything or do anything differently?
Not really. Not really. I would follow the same path. Probably some of the mistakes that I made were trying to rush and trying to or expect things to happen more faster than what they should, right? Things have their own way of happening, and I was kind of rushing some things. Probably that's the only thing that I would do differently, just to be more patient. But no, I wouldn't change a thing. Every struggle taught me something.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. So I'm really interested to know, how do you look at failures and how do you overcome them?
I failed a lot, a lot. uh, I think that I've learned that when you fail, you need to first of all accept that failure, right? And it's just failure is part of the process. I'm telling you this right now, and fine, but it was really hard, and I found it, and I learned this the hard way, right? You need to accept that failure is part of the process, and it sucks. It does. Then, but when you are faced with a setback, you need to know that that's not the final destination. That's probably what I learned. Probably the biggest lesson from failures or from failing is that setback is not your final destination. That's basically what I always keep in mind when I fail. Oh, okay, it's not this way. Let me go back and let's start again. And let's try to understand what happened. Let's acknowledge the failure and let's keep pushing.
Valuable information. Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's switch gears and talk about successes on a positive note of being an entrepreneur after we failed 1,000 times. Are there any successes that you would like to outline from your immigrant entrepreneur journey?
Yes, Alina. There's a beautiful chapter in this story, this Bloomsybox story. In 2018, we received a call from the Martha Stewart team, and it was just amazing. They wanted to do a rose subscription with us.
Wow.
Just sell roses on a constant basis. It was such an amazing experience, just working with, again, an amazing brand like Martha Stewart, and meeting Martha Stewart, being in a conference room with Martha Stewart, just presenting her with, we actually shipped like 100 different type of roses to her, and getting feedback from her saying, I think this rose is going to do well. I don't like this rose. The whole process, it was for me just like a dream. They are, of course, they are an amazing brand, huge brand, and it helped our brand so much. It kind of gave a different level to our brand. But at a personal and professional level, working with Martha Stewart, working with the team that she has in New York was, just a dream. It was a great success for me, right? Even, if you think about, okay, how many boxes of roses are we going to sell? 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million. That's irrelevant. At that point, just living that experience, going through that experience, saying, look, I'm here with this person that, so well known, recognized, that has built this amazing company and this amazing brand for herself. Just being in the same room, talking about developing a business with this person is just a dream come true. So that's probably one of the most amazing successes I've had as an entrepreneur, and one that I'm very proud of.
And I'm looking through your website, and you've been featured all over the nation and practically the world. So, I mean, you've had so much media covering the amazing work that you guys do. So you guys are definitely doing an amazing job. I do want to ask Martha Stewart, why does she not like the typical roses? Because anytime I get roses from my husband, they're all beautiful. How do you not like a rose?
So, they have this amazing brand because they don't take anything lightly. And of course, I'm going to tell you that all my roses are beautiful. I would not be doing my job if I say otherwise. But they were paying attention to every single detail, small detail. And again, it was so interesting because you might think that any specific rose variety that has, an 10-day base life, performs very well, has a great opening, is a great flower, right? But they would come, Martha Stewart would come back and say, I don't like the shape of the petals. I think it has too many petals, or it doesn't have enough petals. The color is not strong enough, or I don't like that the fact that it's so strong. They basically went through a very strict vetting process of just selecting the varieties that we were going to sell online. And I'm not joking when I say he ended up sending around 100 different varieties of roses to their main offices in New York and to some of her homes in New England. She wanted to see how the flowers perform in Maine, and then she wanted to see how the flowers perform in New York, and this and that. They were not taking anything for granted.
Wow.
But, she loved most of the varieties, for her benefit. We actually ended up having a great collection of roses.
So do you still sell roses through Martha Stewart?
No, we don't anymore.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We had the contract. It was fantastic. It was a great experience for us and for them, I think. I like to think that it was a good exercise for them as well. But we are no longer offering the Martha Stewart Rose collection.
Got it. Wow, amazing. So Juan, is giving back, either volunteering time or giving back to the community, something that is part of your business values?
Absolutely, Alina. So the farms where these flowers are grown, some of the workers, they don't have the best conditions because of, everything that I was telling you at the beginning of our conversation. So right now, what we're doing, we are not only buying from farms that we know are treating their workers in a fair way, giving them, paying them the fair wages, providing them with education, but also giving back to that community with our business partners. They actually have a beautiful foundation in Colombia. And what we do as Bloomsybox is, we collaborate with them. We donate to that foundation as well. We have actually done sales and flash sales in which we sell specific products, and the proceeds from that sale goes directly to that foundation. In general, making sure that we only buy from farms that are friendly with their employees, number one, and friendly with the planet, right? That they grow the flowers under sustainable practices, which is very important, right? You don't know when you're buying stuff. And it also applies to food. And I know that people have gotten more conscious about this recently. Where are your flowers? Where are your fruits? Where's the food that you're eating coming from? Really, how are you harvesting these flowers and the conditions for the people that are doing it? So we pay a lot of attention to that. We don't take that lightly by any means. Our farms, there's a couple of certifications that we require in order to do business with that. Like if you want to sell flowers to us as a farm, as a grower, you need to be certified by a couple of institutions that are very serious and reputable. And basically what that means is, okay, we're going to buy from you and we know that you are doing sustainable growing practices and that you're treating your employees fairly.
Yeah, that's very important. So you guys are doing so much with your business and the foundation and giving back and providing education. That's so powerful. Juan, what are some things you would advise the next aspiring immigrant that wants to start their own business listening to you right now?
The first thing, as the late Tony Shea used to say, to chase the vision and not the money. It's never about the money. If you start focusing on the money, it's different, right? It's never going to happen. You need to chase the vision. Also, when you are an immigrant, right, you basically have to struggle, right? Just being an immigrant, you struggle. You're used to the ups and downs of your life as an immigrant. So my advice would be use that to your advantage, right? Use the fact that how you learn about the challenges of being an immigrant, use that to your advantage just to be an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur has so many ups and downs, but again, if you treat those ups and downs as you treat them as an immigrant, you have an advantage. That's basically the way I see it. You're basically overcoming the challenges and the barriers to stay here. Just follow the same hunger for your business.
So powerful. Oh my goodness. I'm soaking it all in. Wow, that's amazing. So Juan, I want to wrap up with some super fast questions, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
What time do you normally start your day?
Around 7 a.m.
Awesome.
I take my girls to school and around 7 a.m.
Awesome. How many employees do you have?
We have 22 employees now.
Got it. How often do you watch TV in a week?
Very often, actually. At night. At night, every night, I want to say.
Okay. And then how many hours of work do you normally put in, say, in a week?
65, 70.
Okay. Hey, well, Juan, thank you so much for coming on the Immigrant Entrepreneurs podcast. You are changing the world with one flower at a time. And I love what you're doing out there. You're innovative and you have a genius business model. So I wish you all the best of successes and I hope to stay in touch with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alina, for having me. Yeah, it was great. And yes, of course, whenever you want, I would love to come back to your show. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just wanted to ask if you can give me a quick shout out wherever you're at listening to this podcast on whatever platform you're on. I'd love to give you a shout out as well on a future episode of mine. So I'll see you guys all next time for another exciting and impactful episode. Take care.